Hello, hello, my Soulpreneur Life family and friends. This is another episode of the Soulpreneur Life Podcast, where I introduce you to new topics and people each and every episode, and sharing insights, tools, value, and inspiration to help you tap into your inner wisdom, create a business that really aligns with your soul's purpose, and navigate the journey of soulpreneurship. So today I want to welcome our lovely guest, Miss Angie. Hello, Miss Angie.
Hello.
And I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell us about what it is that you do and how you help your clients through this journey of soulpreneurship, of entrepreneurship.
Yes, thank you, Kendra, and thank you for having me on the show. So my name is Angie Carlson. I am the owner and financial coach at Carlson Financial Coaching. I specialize in helping couples communicate around their money so that they can live their ideal shared future without financial stress. And this is just something that's near and dear to my heart. I married someone who we were kind of on the same page financially, and we learned very quickly that we were not on the same page financially. And so it's just the journey of, how we work through that, some steps on our journey that prompted me to the solopreneur path, which we'll get into, and just how that's impacting the clients I work with.
Yeah, that's, what I really love about, since we had our talk prior, you're more than just a financial coach or someone who's going to help you with the finances. It's deeper than that, right? Like you help with communication and relationship and the parts that some people don't necessarily see how they're connected, and you braid them together in a way so that not only can you communicate effectively in your relationship and bring up the hard topics and be supported in it, but really move through it. I know that with divorce rates being what they are and money being such a sensitive topic, and being in, this is just something that came up with a client yesterday as well, being women in relationship or in marriage, oftentimes there's this financial insecurity on one partner's behalf, right? Do you often find that where women sometimes feel disempowered in certain ways when it comes to finances or wanting to even address it?
Sometimes it's not as much disempowered as they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so they have this desire to be like, okay, what if something happens? I need to know how to do something, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Things can change in an instant. The job can disappear. The relative can get sick. And everything that you've had that's currently working is like, it's kind of like a house of cards. And when's that card going to fall for a lot of people? And so if, with working on communication to get ahead of that is just crucial, because with two people involved in a relationship, they see things very differently. And it's not that either one is right or wrong. Like, we don't look at it from a right or wrong perspective. It's just, okay, how did our experiences shape our beliefs with money? And how can we pull some parts from both stories to provide you with a financial future, not only for your relationship, but if you have kids, so that you're teaching the kids what you want to learn about money. You're very aware of, okay, yes, I might have had a bad experience here, but that does not mean I am required to repeat it.
Yes. I love that you identified that with those, and it's unique. I had a conversation with one of my Army brothers, and he was talking about finances and business. And so I just love hearing your perspective too, and having that in the back of my mind kind of playing, because there is a significant difference depending on how you were raised and how you've experienced your relationship with money. So when you come into partnership with it and you come into these different circumstances, or you have big dreams that you want to invest in, or you want to have that safety of, am I going to have money when I'm retirement age? And what is my retirement age going to be at this point? And all of those things, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And I was going to touch on that by saying, with my husband and me, one of the things that society constantly preaches is do a budget, do a budget, do a budget. Now, I am not anti-budget. We use one at our house. I will say that for about a decade, my husband and I did a budget, and we saw no change in our financial position. We weren't taking on debt. We weren't going backwards, but we also weren't really going forwards. And talk about frustrating. Like, you're doing all this work and it's like, for what? But then once we came together and changed our mindset, we paid off about $8,500 of debt in 107 days. So there's a lot of people who look at it and expect the budget to fix their problems. And I'm proof that the budget's a tool, it's not a fix.
Yeah. And how would you guide people to their fix, right? What if people are maybe intimidated by a budget, or they have a budget and they're feeling similarly to what you've shared? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I would actually recommend something counterintuitive to what most people in my profession would recommend. And that is, let's not start with the budget. Let's figure out where we are and where we want to go. So what do we have going on in our situation that we don't like? What would we love to have going on in our situation that we do like? And then how do we bridge the gap? And that's one of the things that I cover in my program is we need to, figure out where we are, get to where we're going. And then once we know where we're going, how do we start using our budget and our finances to get us further on this path? Because now the budget, instead of being a source of frustration, it's a source of excitement because we see that every day we're getting closer to our goal.
Yeah. I know something that I don't have the experience you have, clearly, right? Obviously, you're the expert here. But something that we do in the military is with our soldiers, we go over and we do like a budget because their income is obviously fixed for each pay period. And a lot of what I learned is a lot of people are afraid to take inventory of how they're spending their money. And there's like this shame or fear or anxiety that is kind of linked to that. How do you help your customers, your clients navigate through that to even be open to explore what you have to offer in your program?
Love that question. And thank you to you and your military brothers and sisters for all of their service.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we do is I never want to come from a place of judgment. What's done is done. We cannot go back and change decisions.
Yeah.
So we're starting at a slate. Now, what we do want to go back and look at is that's just kind of our data mining. And so gathering data to make a future decision. So kind of look at it as, okay, we're going on vacation. Where do we want to go? How much do we want to spend? But see, when you look at your stuff for like a vacation, that's fun. Looking at it, your past spending is kind of like you said, the anxiety, stress, fear, worry. Yeah. And it's more of, do we want to get to where we're going? More important? Is that more important than the looking back and realizing the mistakes we've made? Because in order to know what we need to change to move forward, we need to know what hasn't been working. And also, if it hasn't been working, what's your desire to change that? Is your desire of going for your dream more important than staying where you are today, thinking that I need to keep my parents, siblings, kids happy? I need to please all these people, or do I really trust myself enough to go after what I want and know that I'll put the right people, places, processes around me to get there because I really value that? So to me, it sometimes isn't as much of a financial question as it's a, what do we value in our life question? What do I want my life to look like when I'm nearing the end of my life? Do I want to look back on my life and be like, I just worked my life for payments? Or do I want to look back and say, wow, we gave the money we wanted to give. We went to places we wanted to go. We gave our kids the experiences we want them to have.
I love that perspective. And I'm reeling in the back of my mind with all of these other thoughts, because that's the deep mindset work and personal development that we get to continue to expand as we make our lives better. And I love what you have to offer, because not only do I see these mindset shifts in the work that I do with people, but I know that they are, depending on where they are when they find you, or when they find me, right? They have to work through and be open to work through that emotional stuff to even be willing to shift mindsets, because some of this has been ingrained since childhood for many. And seeing how parents or caregivers were handling money or not handling money, or people pleasing.
And those experiences from childhood continue to show up in your life. Like that was what my husband and I ran into when we tried to merge our finances. Like I would say my family did something and he'd look at me like I had three heads. And then he's telling me about a decision, and I'm back in my mind, I'm like, people really do that with money? And it was hard to like acknowledge that the other one's experience was actually real because we didn't live it.
Yeah.
And it's not that And it wasn't that I didn't believe my spouse and what he went through, but it was more like, I just didn't understand it because I had just never seen it or experienced it. And that is all so normal. Like,
Yeah.
and so one of the things that I know we had to work really hard on was like just learning more about the other one in that experience. Like there's some things now that, we'll do with our money that I think is crazy, but I do it because that's where my spouse has anxiety and vice versa with it. And it's not like an, oh, we don't trust the other one. We absolutely do. And we love the other person enough to know like this is important to them. This is important to our relationship. We're going to do this to honor the other person, because sometimes that's what I run into too, is it's like, you want me to do what? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to the other person. And I'll be honest, some of the stuff that my spouse and I've gone through, like, it doesn't make sense to either one of us either. But but there's a way that you can be like, I know you went through it and I don't understand it. And it's okay to have both.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And these are such important questions that you could ask in the dating phase of relationships too. Like, what are your experiences with money or with your family and money and things like that? I was married for 9 years and married at 18, so very, very young. And so my money story was like, I want to be safe. I want to build savings. Like, I'm using coupons. I'm doing all of this. And my ex-husband at the time he grew up without, so he wanted to spend everything that he got as soon as he got it. So it was like, oh, I can put $200 in the savings. And then when I would go to use it for groceries or something, my card would be declined. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Right. But those weren't the questions I was asking, obviously, at 18, getting married. So now that I have the wisdom that I have, like, I love that you're bringing this up, because these are conversations that anyone can have before you get into a partnership with someone. And then how do you recommend, or how do you help your clients kind of navigate when they're in relationship, when they're in marriage, and they realize that their money stories, their money beliefs are conflicting, and they have to compromise, or they have to come to some sort of agreement in order to work towards the same goal, whatever their goal may be? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, how I start navigating that is we need to identify the goal first, because the goal is going to provide the direction of where we're going. And then as we go on the goal, and sometimes this can happen over a number of sessions as well. So this isn't a 5-minute fix by any means.
Right.
So,
A lifetime of work in 5 minutes.
And so it's just kind of like, bringing up, like, if, they're like, we've been frustrated on communication with money. Okay, great. Tell me a time when you've been frustrated. And then I can ask questions and go deeper with that. Or tell me about a recent disagreement you've had. I'm sure every couple, we know what those are. So, and so just work through that in a space where people are comfortable, and it's more of kind of like, we're looking for data and clues. We're not looking for, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Like, that's not what the program's about. It's more of, how do we want to get there? And then how committed are we to getting there? Because sometimes as you go to get on the same page, it's like, oh, I'm committed to get there, and I didn't realize the commitment meant all of this coming with me. And then sometimes there's clues in the finances. So if there's things going on in the finances, or there's sometimes a topic will come up and be like, I spent $500 on Amazon, and the one person who spent it's like, I don't even remember what I bought at Amazon. Okay, now we need to go in and see what's like, what happens there, or just kind of start learning what the triggers are, because there's we're all guilty of impulse spending, and we always will impulse spend. The goal is not to get any of this perfect. What the goal is to start recognizing, oh, if I feel A, and my default mechanism is to go spend $400 to feel better, we need to figure out, okay, this emotion is going to keep happening. So what do we do to stop it before we spend the money? And the goal is to just improve on this. So like, if this is happening every week and we start getting down to every 3 weeks, and then we get it down to every 2 months, we're still progressing to the goal. Like, the goal is to not have everything go away. That's not realistic. We're not set up for perfection. And then how do we start putting the things in place for us to realize, okay, if something comes up and we really do need to shop and buy something like that, like, how do we know what we need? How do we know what we want? And how do we give ourselves permission to get what we want too? Because I mean, the goal isn't just to work hard to make the budget happy, to have all this money in savings and never live.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
we need to balance all of that too. I mean, there's money, you can give it, you can spend it, you can save it. And what I've learned with working with people is everyone's pretty much wired very strongly one way. One way, they are not wired that way at all. And the third one can be a mix.
Yeah. I think I'm just, what have you, I don't want to bombard you with all of these questions. So I'm trying to like slow my excitement down because, because I could ask you a million questions right now and take this a whole bunch of different ways. I think what listeners could benefit right now would be,
Mhm.
what advice would you give someone or recommend to someone who is just starting out with
Mhm.
uncovering this path of dealing with relationship and dealing with finances and trying to find a way to come to a common goal or to begin working towards the future?
Great question. So the first step I would say is give each other lots and lots of grace, love, and patience.
Yes.
So, because this is going to be a journey, and there's parts of this journey that are going to be hard. I'm not here to sugarcoat this. The result is amazing. The process to get there can be a little messy. So that would be the first step. The second step is to gather the data, go back and look at transactions like from the last 30, 60, 90 days, whatever you decide, and be like, what clues are in here that tell us about the financial state? So if we find overdraft fees, for an example,
Mhm.
what's the result of that? Is this, is this a situation that, maybe if you're only making $2,000 a month as a couple, more than likely you probably need to increase income because your expenses are very tight. Now, if you're making $10,000 a month and you're overdrafting, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And then how do we balance it where the answer to our equation isn't always to go make more money? Because I've talked to people who make crazy 5 figures a month and they're still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
So it's not always making more money is the answer. And two, if you're making more money to solve the problem and you're still spending and spending, how frustrating is that? Because you're busting your behind to go solve a problem and the
Yeah.
problem isn't improving or it's getting worse. Like, that's really discouraging.
Yeah.
And so that's where it can help to work with a coach to kind of help you sort through of like, okay, is this truly an income issue, or is this a truly we need to reassign what we value? And where I see a lot of people spend a lot of money is eating out.
Mm,
And I'm just as guilty, because it's, you work hard all day. The last thing you want to do is go home and cook,
yeah.
especially in the summertime.
Oh, my word. Yes.
And that's where money can disappear very quickly. I mean, you could easily find $1,000 or $1,500 a month eating out if you're doing it regularly.
Yeah. It reminds me how you've shared it. It reminds me of being a private, and I had my first promotion. So I went from like an E2 to an E3, which is not that much of a pay difference. Like you're still making pennies on the dollar. And the E7, the sergeant first class who was responsible for me in my section, he was like, always live one rank below whatever you are. And I'm like, but sorry, I'm still not making any money. But I remember him saying that. So that's something that's always kind of carried with me. Even when I had promotions, I would still live at a lower rank for my expenses as much as possible. I know that didn't work being married to the person I was married to at the time, but I always did my best to try to have that in mind. And I think that what you shared about having compassion and having those conversations and things like that, it's really important. And something that I'm taking away from what you've shared is I can look back, and I bought my first house at 22 with my VA home loan and things like that. So learning how to budget, learning how to build my credit and all of that. I was doing it on the fly, but there are so many resources out there available to us, but we have to plug into them. And so what do you provide? What do you have to offer that our listeners could tap into or plug into so that they could have some of your genius, some of your resources and things like that?
Great question. So I do have a website and social media with amazing content. The social media handle is at Finance Coach AC. I believe Kendra will be
I'll
linking
link
all
it.
the information with the show. The website is also carlsonfinancialcoaching.com/homepage. And then I do offer a no cost conversation with me. So whenever, if you're on the fence of like, do we need help? Do we need this type of help? Do we not? First conversation is no cost, just for us to see what are your needs? Is this a good fit for us both? What would your plan look like? And then we would go from there after that conversation. So if you're even slightly curious about how would this work for me? Can my spouse and I really even do this? We would, we love the concept, but we don't think it's for people like us. Great. I would love the opportunity to chat with you and just show you that this can work for you. This can work for your marriage, and just put you on the path so that your present life with your finances and the stress and the anxiety is not required to be part of your future life.
Oh, yes. Claim it. Claim it. I love that. And I think that is giving life. I love season changes. So it's the rebirthing is what I'm feeling right now, just with us being in the summertime and people in this space of wanting to spend. And I know for me, summers are so expensive because being a mom, and then my daughter's birthday being in the summer, and just all of the things on top, it's so valuable to be aware and to not think that you know everything, or to not assume that there's nothing else for you to learn outside of the knowledge that you do have. Sometimes people can share things with you in a way where it lands differently, and it clicks and a light bulb goes off, and then suddenly your entire life, your outcome, your goals, and all of those things, they're shifted, and they're right in front of you because you were open to receive it. So I'm sharing that with the listeners just because I want you to really allow yourself to explore people working in their zone of genius, people who have studied and spent time working with other people to receive transformations, to build the life that they desire. So I just really want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you to those who've tuned in. I want to make sure that you guys feel, confident and excited to plug in to the resources that Miss Angie has. All of it will be linked below as usual around the podcast if you're on Spotify or on YouTube. And if you want to book a call with her, do it. There is nothing that you can lose by seeing if something is a fit. There's nothing to lose. There's everything to gain. So shift your mindset from fear into what if this works? What if this is possible? What if this changes my life? And I get an extra summer vacation, or I get an extra vacation once a year, or something like that, right? There is so much possibility when we allow ourselves to be open and to explore connecting with other people who are in their zone of passion, who are in their zone of genius. So again, thank you for being with us today, Miss Angie. Thank you for sharing your expertise, for your value, for your wisdom. And I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with our Soulpreneur Life audience. And is there anything else before we go that you would like to share?
I just wanted to thank the listeners for tuning in. Thank you for having me on your show, Kendra. And just another reminder of just, if you're slightly curious, you're feeling that pull on your heart, you're on your 10th budgeting app going, why can I not figure this out? Those are all great reasons. Just reach out and just book that free call, and let's just have a conversation. No judgment. You come as you are. All emotions are welcome. And let's just sit together, see what we can do to bring a plan. Come as you are, come as your marriage is. And let's just see about getting the help that you need to get you going on your journey, because you are not required to live your life in a phase of financial struggle, waking up in the night, financial stresses, debating, do I stay home with my kids or do I go to work? You're not required to do that. You are worth so much more than that. And let's get that going for you. You are worth that.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. And I think that all the listeners who are tuned in and who are feeling the financial stress, especially with our economy being what it is right now, with inflation and things going up and things of that nature, I think that you really just shared a beautiful invitation for them to tap into your expertise. So I just want to say thank you again, and thank you to our listeners, and make sure that you guys visit her website, book the discovery call, see if her services are aligned with you, and start creating a better tomorrow. All right. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Soulpreneur Life Podcast.